Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In the last couple of videos, we have seen how we can create custom web application using ADF and how we can integrate that application in OIM self-service portal. In this video, I'll be showing you that how we can customize OIM forms using ADF. That form can be catalog forms, user form, or even application instance form. The procedures that I'll be going to show in this video are same for all type of forms. This is a project that I'll be covering in this video. So in this project, I'll be adding a custom list of value field into the catalog forms, and that will define the second level approver for all catalog items. So as you can see in the picture, so I have to add an additional approver user field, which will be an LOV field. Once someone will click into the magnifying glass, it will open a dialog box where you can search the user and pick one of them from here. Once you click on the apply button, this will store the data into the database. So there are three steps that I'll be performing here. Here are the steps. In the first steps, I will create a new text field into the catalog form. In the second step, I will be preparing the ADF management application, and in the third step, I'll be deploying that application into OIM and I will be showing you the test result. So let's get started. First, I will create a simple text field into the catalog form. So for this, I will first log into the sysadmin console using system administrator. Then I will go to sandbox and create some new sandbox. Let's say custom LOV, save and close. Now I will go to the system entity and catalog. So now this will open the catalog form entity. Here from action, I will create a new text field. I click on create. I'll select text, click OK. And here I have to give the display name first. Let's say additional approver user. Now this will automatically take the name, so I'll keep this the same name, additional approver user, and I click on save and close. Okay, so now a new entity field has been added here. So now I will go to the sandbox and I will simply publish the sandbox. So now the entity field has been created. Now I have to create the view from the identity console. So for this, I have to log into the identity console. Again, I have to go to, sorry, not in the customization, into the sandbox. And I have to create one more sandbox here, custom LOV UI, save and close. I'll go to home and from the request, I have to go to the catalog. So in the catalog, I can choose any item and click on this this particular icon I, and if I click on this, the catalog form will be open. So here I have to add that created field, that the field that I have created in the entity form, I have to add that field in this view form. So for this, I have to click on the customize button and then click on structure. And here you can first select any field. Click on edit. So you will notice that the selected field, it will be visible in the right hand side. So now you have to scroll up and you have to click on the root component of this field. So as you can see that this panel form layout, if I select this, the form is only the form is selected here. Under this form we have all the uh, input fields. So in this form I will add a new text field. So I click on this plus sign here and I have to find out the entity field that I have created from the sysadmin console. So for that, I will first select data component catalog, click open, and then from here I will click on the cart items VO1. And if I scroll down, I will be able to see the field, the entity field that I have created in the sysadmin console is appeared here. So I simply click on add. So it will give me some options. So from these options, I will select ADF input text with label. Now once it is added, I just close this window and we can see that the additional approver user field is added in the top. So what I will do, I will just bring this field down to the bottom after this fulfillment role. So for this, I will go to the edit and then I will go to child component, and I can see in the form layout child components we have all the fields listed here and the additional approver user is in the top. So from the right hand side, this down arrow, if I click the down arrow one, so you can see that the component is being down one step down. So this way I will bring this component down after the fulfillment role. Okay, so once it is done, click on OK. So as you can see, the additional approver user field is after the fulfillment role. So far, I will just now close this customization panel. And now I have the text field added here. Now what I will do, I will just convert this text field into a list of value field manually. So for this, I will not going to publish this sandbox, but I will go to the sandbox and I will simply export the sandbox right now. Click on export. So let's say I will OIM training, the sandbox. Okay, so here I'm saving the sandbox. So now in the next step, I will be preparing the ADF application. I open JDeveloper. Here I'll be creating a new application. So in this type of customization, we do not need a ADF web application, Fusion web application, because ADF Fusion web application contains two projects, model project and view controller projects. But in this case, we will be only using the view controller project. Okay, so we don't need the model project. So for this, we can go with the generic applications, and we create an application, then we create a view controller project separately. So I select the generic application, I click OK, and here I give a name, let's say Custom LOV, click next and click finish. So the application is created, so it also creates a default project. So we don't need this particular project, so we can delete this. Okay, so if I go to the directory structure in the custom LOV, so we have this directory created where we have only the JWS file. Now in this workspace, we will create a view controller project. So click on new, go to the projects, and then click on ADF view controller project. Click OK and give a name. I'd like to keep this default name view controller, not a problem. Okay, click next, and the default package I would like to provide oracle.im.ui.custom. Finish. So it creates the view controller project for me here. Now we need a couple of dependent projects here. Now Oracle provided us a couple of library projects for UI customizations in OIM. So you can find these projects in the Oracle tutorials or the training center. Okay, so I have a link. If you copy the link and paste it in the browser, so the file will be automatically downloaded. You can find this link in the description below. So if you open a browser, copy and paste that link into the browser and hit the enter, so you will have this file downloaded. Now if you open the file, you will find advanced UI customization. If you open that advanced UI customization, there is one RAR file, assets.rar. So now open this asset.rar, open it. Now here you can find there are many directories. Now we need a common model and common UI, these two folders. Okay, so these two folders you have to copy into the directory of your workspace. So we have the custom LOV applications which created the workspace, Java workspace. So here we have the view controller project. Now here we need to extract these two projects as well. So now these are the two dependent library projects. Okay, so this contains many syntaxes and libraries that we can use to create different types of fields, customizations, events into our UI projects of OIM. Okay, so once it is done, we close it, and now we have to open the JDeveloper and we have to add these two projects into our workspace. So we have so far copied the folders or the two projects into the workspace. Now we have to add it into the JDeveloper. So now we click on open, and then we have to go to the custom LOV workspace, and here first we open common model and select common model.jpr. Click open. So as you can see, the common model project is added. So similarly, we have to add common UI project. So now both the projects are added here. So now we have to change the dependencies of the view controller. So now view controller needs the output of these two projects. Okay, so I simply right click on the view controller project, go to the properties. In the dependency, I will click on the edit, and I expand both the projects and select build output from both the projects and click OK. So now the JPR, or the output of common model and common UI, are now added to the view controller project dependencies. Okay, and similar to the previous video that I have already covered, where we have to add the ADF library files for OIM customization. So we have to add the ADF library files in all three projects here. Okay, so let's do it. OIM client library, model shared, and view shared library. It's done. Similar to the common model project. Here also you can see the library references are not reachable after download. So you remove all these unreachable libraries here. We don't need these, and simply add these three libraries: client library, model shared, view shared library. Click OK. Done. Similarly common UI. This we don't need. This we simply remove. Click on add library and we add these three libraries. Okay, so now we have prepared our workspace. So here we will be creating our manage bin project, and this manage bin we will be attached to the LOV field into the catalog. Okay. To speed up the process and keep the video length short, I have already prepared the Java code and I put it into my backup file. So here I will be copying and pasting the Java codes for each Java classes, and I will describe you how these Java codes will work. So first we have to create 3 Java classes, and all these 3 Java classes will be under the view controller project. So I right click on the view controller project, I click on new, and one by one I will create those Java classes. Once I create the Java classes, then I will explain which Java class will perform what operation. The first one would be OIM user list. Then I click on the custom, right click, new Java class. OIM user list data provider. It's a second Java class. Similarly, I will create the third one. Okay, all 3 Java classes are created. Now this LOV bin Java class, I will be using it as a manage bin. So this is not a task flow project, but in every view controller project, there is a default task flow. So this default task flow you can find under web component, webinf, ADF config.xml. Now this ADF config.xml is a default task flow for every view controller project. And I will be creating a new manage bin under this default task flow. If I double click, I go to manage bin, and here I'll create a new manage bin. And this manage bin will link to LOV bin.java class. And the scope I have to provide backing bin scope, because this is a OIM backend form customization. So all these type of customization we have to select the scope as a backing bin scope. Now click save all. So now all our Java classes are ready. Now let's start with the first Java class, the OIM user list. This Java class will work like a search field. Let's go to the PPT once again. So here is our LOV field. If someone click on the magnifying glass, it will open a dialog box where you can find user login and full name as a search field. User will enter some value and click on search. And the display field is same, user login and full name. Now this particular class will define how many attributes we want to involve in this LOV functionality. Okay, so we have to define them here. So let's copy and paste the code from my backend file. First of all, it needs to extend the model bin functionality. Okay, so we have to extend this OIM user list Java class with model bin, and that should be Oracle IM UI sample common model. Okay, so once it is done, then we have to denote some annotation. Okay. Now what these annotations are for? Now these annotations and this extended class, these are coming from this common model and common UI project. Okay, from these two. Now Oracle already defined some annotations for this LOV model creation. Now for the LOV model, the search fields we are denoting with ID and display name. Okay, so now the first one is the ID. The ID one will be used for searching, and the display name is for detailed description of the search result. Okay, so I using user login as ID and the full name as a display name, and the label we are defining like this: model attribute and label. The first one is user login and the second one is full name. Okay, so it should be this one, ID. Okay, and then we have our actual attributes. Okay, now we have to create the constructor of the class. So you already have all this prepared, so I'm just copying and pasting it. Okay, and then we need only the getter method, not the setter method. Okay, so because LOV is only the read-only activity, so we don't need to set any value through LOV. So we select both the field and just unselect the set method. So we have to get method here. Okay, so our first class is ready. Let's go to the second class, OIM user list data provider. This class will give you the search result and the search operation. Okay, so once someone will click on the search button, this class will be involved, and this class will trigger the search operation, and it will retrieve the data from OIM, and it will display the data into the LOV dialog box. Okay, so let's build that class. First of all, it requires the implementation of an interface. Okay, the data provider, it should be yes. Okay, so the data provider is also coming from the common model project. Okay, now this requires the implementation of the predefined method. So as you can see, this is the default method search. So whenever you click on the search button here, this particular search button, okay, it will call this search method and it will pass the query descriptor. Now query descriptor contains the value of user login and full name user input. So in the query descriptor, once we have this value, we will retrieve this value under this method here, and then we will search accordingly into the OIM and get the exact result. Okay. So let's build. I'm just copying the whole content of the method first. Okay. Before I do that, I will copy all the input data from here. And now I'm copying the content of the search method. Let me maximize this. Okay. So let me explain what are there in the content. Okay. So first of all, we are generating a query. Okay. So we will do a simple query into the OIM USR table with user login as the first attribute and the display name. Okay. Now, as I said that the query descriptor contain all the input value from the end user. Now I'm first checking if the query descriptor is null or not. If it is not null, that means user want a specific search. Let's say user login equals to something or not. And if the query descriptor is null, that means user want blank search. Means without providing any value to user login and full name, just click on the search button. If the search is a specific search, then we have to first get the user inputs in this method. So for this, first we are doing the get conjunction criterion. So the criterion is something that is holding the value of the input. Okay, so first I am getting the criterion and then the criterion list. So now it is returning the list of criterion object. Okay, so now each criterion is one field. Now I'm iterating this list here. Okay, and I'm first extracting one attribute, and now I'm comparing if that attribute is a user login attribute, then I'm storing the value in one string variable. So now this one is a user login, and similar, if the attribute is a full name, then I'm storing it in the full name string value. Okay, so now here, after the execution of this particular section, we will be having user login value and full name value from user input. Now if we get these two value, then we are preparing a where clause. Here we have already prepared the simple query, select USR login and display name from USR, and now I'm preparing the where clause. So in the where clause, we have the user login value with like operation. So that means, you can put either the exact one or the some characters of it. Okay, so it not to be equal. So equal will be completely specific. It's better to use the like operation here. Okay, so we have user login and we have full name, and obviously we are retrieving all the active users. And now if the query descriptor is null, then we are putting the where clause simply with all active users. Okay, now we are joining the query here, and then we are calling another method with this query, which will provide us the list of users. Okay, now we have to remember this particular search method is returning the list as an return parameter, and this list contains the list of OIM user list object. So as we have seen earlier, this OIM user list contains user login and full name. So we have to prepare this list with user login and full name, and obviously as an object of OIM user list class. Okay. So I'm copying the rest of the operations. So what I have done here, so we have a method for connecting OIM. It's a OIM client class, and then we have the get user list method. Okay, so this get user list method will return a list with OIM user list object of all the possible users by this particular query. Okay, so we are calling this method from here. We are storing the user list, and then we are simply returning the list. So that means if someone click on the search, okay, so it will appear the result through OIM list or OIM user list in this particular section. Okay, now we have done with the second class. Now we have to build the third one. So this is our managed bin class. Now this managed bin class will be directly connected with the UI field component. Okay, so far we have created the UI field and we have exported the sandbox. Now let's first check the sandbox that we have exported. Okay. So this is the sandbox custom LOV UI that we have exported. If we open the sandbox, Oracle IAM UI catalog, you have to just click next till the time you have get this XML file, jsff.xml file. Okay, so from here you have to take this information, detail information, and open it with editor. So we have added one text field. So you can see the MDS insert tag. Okay, so under this MDS insert tag you have your text field. Now this text field has a bind name. Now this additional approver user underscore underscore C is a bind name of the field. Okay, we have to use these parameters from here in our code. And obviously the LOV bin, the manage bin that we have created, from this manage bin we have to define some components with expressions here. Okay, so now what components we will be defining here? So let's see. So in the LOV bin we have to add two components. One is model, one is return pop-up listener. And these two components we will be adding as an expression here in the jsff.xml file. Okay, so let's first add the component into the Java class. I'm copying all the import classes, and now first I am adding one ADF root components, and then I'm adding the model components here. Now this is the method. Okay, so this method will return the model content. Now what is defined in this method? First, here in this line, okay, we are creating the page flow scope variable, okay, which is nothing but a map of string and object. Okay, now what I am doing here, from the ADF context I'm getting the current instance where this code is run. Okay, now the current instance of the ADF context, and from there I'm retrieving the current page flow scope. Now from the current page flow scope I need to get the model, how many models we have in that page. So if you remember, in the catalog page we have many other LOV fields. So for each and every LOV fields there are models available. Okay, each models are defined with a name. Now as we have a text field in our sandbox XML file, we have to convert this text field into LOV. Now once we converted it into LOV, let me go to the XML file once again. Now this is the text field. Okay, we will convert into LOV. Once we convert into LOV, we have to add a model. Once we add a model, we have to provide a model name. Okay, so using that name, the model will be defined, and the same name we have to use in our code. Okay, so we have provided a model name called OIM user list LOV model. So any name you can provide here. Okay, now using that name, I'm getting the model component into this LOV list of value model IMPL class, and this class obviously is type of OIM user list, which will have two fields for search and two fields for display. Okay, so with this line I'm extracting or getting the current model component in our variable OIM user list LOV model. So as you can see that I maintain two the same name into the variable as well as in the model name. So you can keep any type of name or any different name also you can provide here, but I prefer to use the same name so that because if we need to create more LOV fields, it will help you to create in bulk. Okay, after that I'm just refreshing the LOV model. Okay, and then I'm checking if the LOV model that I have retrieved from the current ADF context is null or not. If it is null, that means that it is a first time we are using it. Okay, so if it is null, then it will do what? It will replace the content with the actual value. Now if I find that model content is null, I'm now instantiating the data provider from OIM user list data provider, the class that we have just now prepared, this one. So if I instantiate this class, means it will perform the search operation in OIM, prepare the OIM user list and return it. Okay, so now this is the data provider that I have instantiated, and after that I'm creating the new model content. Okay, so OIM user list LOV model, if it is null, now it will, I'm storing the new content of the model. The new content will have the data provider and the OIM user list that defines the parameters. Okay, so now altogether this particular section is creating the new model content and storing it in this variable. After we get the new model content, now I have to put this model content into the model of the UI. Okay, so earlier we put the we perform the page flow scope dot get operations to get the content of the UI model, and if it is null, then I'm setting the UI model with the actual content. Okay, so in the page flow scope dot put, I provide the name of the model and this is the content of the model. Okay, and then I'm just returning whatever the LOV model I have prepared. So now this particular section is defined that how model will work. Now the second component that I will be adding here is the return pop-up listener. Okay, let me first add, then I'm describing what is it. Okay, now return pop-up listener is a method which will return the selected value from the model to the LOV bind attribute. Okay, so let's go to the image. So here you can see the dialog box. So whatever the value you select here and click on OK, this value should appear in this LOV text box. Okay, here. So now this operation will be done by the return pop-up listener method. Now what are the content of the method? First I'm calling the model method, the model method that we have defined earlier, and then get selected data. Now this will return whatever the data row that end user select, okay, the data of that row, and it will store as a OIM user list object. Okay, now if that is not null, then what I'm doing here, I'm just setting the bind value. Okay, so every attribute will have a bind operation or a bindings. So for that attribute bindings, I'm setting the value, so that value will be actually go to the database later on if I click on the apply. Okay, so I have to add the attribute binding value. So now for this, the faces util dot set attribute binding value, I have to provide the name of the bind attribute and then the value. Now this faces util is coming from the common UI project. Okay, so this is already defined in this project. So I'm using this project's output, so that means I can use all these classes, the one that has been already been defined by Oracle. Okay, so now how we will get this name? So as I have already shown you, if I open the XML page from the sandbox, okay, where I have added this text field, this is the bind value of the text field. So this particular value you have to use here in the code. Okay, so I did this. So now once you set the bind attribute, okay, you have to just do the render of the entire section of the ADF context. Okay, so this is the faces util dot partial render, and you have to put the component that we defined as a UI component variable here. That's it. So now your project, the ADF project, is ready. Now it's time to prepare the sandbox XML page, because the component that we have defined here, we have to add this component into the sandbox XML page, otherwise it will not work. So once it will be done, then we will going to deploy the entire piece of projects. I mean the ADF projects as well as the sandbox one we have to implement, and then we can get the full result. Okay, so let's go to the page where we have this XML file. Sorry, not here, here. Okay, so first of all we have to convert this text input, okay, with list of value. So what I am doing here, I'm just deleting the text. I'll put input list of value. Okay, to replace the end tag as well. Now it converted to list of value. Okay, now you already have these many attributes here. Okay, so you have to add three attributes here. First one is a auto submit equals to true. Now the second one would be the model. Okay, now how the model will be defined here, that needs to be defined as an expression. Okay, first it will be backing bin scope dot, then you have to put your bin name, which is LOV bin, and then you have to provide the model name. The model name, that if you go to the lovbin.java file, this is the name that we used as a model name. So we copy this name and we paste it here. Now this defines the model. And the third component is the return pop-up listener. Okay, return pop-up listener. This also like backing bin scope dot lov bin dot, if I go to the lovbin.java, this method return pop-up listener OIM user list. Okay, put this here. Okay, now our LOV field UI component is done. Okay, now I go to the JDeveloper and I will be deploying it as a ADF library region. Okay, so as you can see, the deployment profile is not being created. Okay, so we have to first create the deployment profile. The existing one is a Word file. We delete this, click on new ADF library region, click OK. That's already done. Click OK. Now save everything here. Now I'm compiling this project and preparing the ADF library jar file. So now the jar file will be ready, and now it is already done and it is ready. Now I will put this jar file into the dev starter pack.word in under the webinf/lib. Okay, it's pretty similar to the previous series of video where I have covered how during the ADF customization or the UI customization of OIM, where we need to put the ADF library.jar, where we need to place it and how we need to deploy it. Okay, so I'm not going to cover these sections once again. So we were archiving this jar, and we will be placing or putting this jar into the webinf.lib in the dev starter pack, and then we deploy this dev starter pack to the OIM and bouncing back the server once. So I'm just pausing the video. Once the server will be start up and running, I will resume it back. Okay. Okay. Now the server is restarted. Meanwhile, I have found two mistakes that I have made while I was developing the codes and the sandbox XML files. The first mistake that I did here, so in the lovbin.java class, okay, we don't need to refresh the model. What will happen if we do the refresh? The first time when the model will be initiated, that time the model will be always null. So this line, if we keep this line, the refresh, it will give me the null pointer exception. So I just rectified this code. Okay, I redeployed the code once again in OIM. Okay, now the code and the management is ready and it is now loaded in OIM server. Now let's go to the sandbox. So now we have the custom LOV UI sandbox, which had the input text field, and then we have modified this detail information.jsf, which is the catalog file, okay, form, and we converted the input text field with input list of value. Previously I did only input list of value, but it should be values s, okay, in plural number. Otherwise, the input list of value, with input list of value, there is no syntax available in ADF. So it must be values, okay, and otherwise it's now all fine. Now we save this file, and before we import the sandbox in OIM, we have to transfer this file inside the sandbox once again. So we will transfer this file from where we extracted it, okay. So I've just transferred this file here, okay. Close it. Now I go to the identity console once again, log in using Celsius ADM. I'll go to sandbox. Now we don't need this particular sandbox because the sandbox we have created with for the input text field, okay, and then we extract or exported this sandbox and we modified. Now we will delete this sandbox and we will import our modified sandbox here. Now I'll activate this sandbox. Now I'll go to home. Now I open catalog from here. Click on this icon. Now if I go down, you can see that the additional approver user, this text field now converted to LOV field, okay. Now if I click on this magnifying glass, you see the dialog box opened, and here we have two fields for search. By default we have all the active users here. Now you can search with any specific user. Let's say if I put Celsius ADM and click on search, you see only the Celsius ADM is here. So from out of all the active users, you can search any active users with user login or full name, okay. If I remove it and click the blank search, it will give me all the active users. Now I can select one of them from here and click on OK. So as you can see, the value is appeared here, okay. Now if you let's say click on the apply button, this will be saved, okay. So if I close it and reopen the catalog page once again, you see the value is already stored, okay. So now this way we can create the list of value field in OIM forms. Now in this example I use the catalog form. The procedure is exactly similar for any other type of forms. So you can add this custom list of value in application instance form, or in the user form, or in the role form, in any OIM form. The procedures are exactly same that I have just now demonstrated in this video. So in the next video, I will be covering some more ADF customizations on different types of forms with the different types of activities. You can also download this entire project from the link given in the description below. Please like and subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon for the notification so that whenever I will upload the new video, you will get notified. Stay safe. Thank you for watching.